Over the years, I've found that my purpose as a teacher is to share my experiences, both positive and negative, with my students and athletes as a coach, in the hopes of accomplishing two things. If it's a positive experience, hoping to get across the message that this is the kind of work that it takes, or this is the amount of perseverance, or this is the path that I took, and maybe try to encourage others to navigate a similar path. Likewise, if it's a negative, the encouragement is to avoid the path that I took and find a different one. Last Friday afternoon, I received a phone call from the math department chair at Hinsdale South High School. Many of you know that I coach football there. Many of you know that I have coached football there for the past 5 years. Many of you know that I was trying to get a math position for next school year and was very excited about the opportunity. So the conversation Friday essentially was, I'm no longer a candidate for that position. And the reasoning was that there is a certain GPA that is required in order for candidates to make it past a certain level and move on to the next round of interviews, so to speak. So I had a phone interview before spring break, and the idea was I was going to hear back one way or the other about a face-to-face interview and how the process would continue or not. So, process is done for me. So what can I learn from all of this? Well, first let me share a few details with you about how the conversation went. We don't focus a whole lot on GPA at our school, nor do most middle schools. In high school it'll be a bigger deal, and apparently in college it'll be a bigger deal as well. But for those of you who don't know, you've had presentations on GPA. Grade point average essentially is the average score of the points that each grade is worth. For example, in most cases, an A is worth 4 points, a B is worth 3 points, a C is worth 2 points, and a D is worth 1 point. F is worth 0. So your grade point average is, you take the numerical values associated with those grades and add them together and divide them by the number of classes, you have your grade point average. For example, if you just had 4 classes, math, science, ALA, and reading, take those 4 core classes, and you have 2 A's and 1 B. So you would add 4 for an A, plus 4 for an A, plus 3 for a B, plus 3 for a B. 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 3 is 11, plus 4 is 14. And you would divide 14 by 4. And you would get 3.5. That would be your grade point average, GPA, 3.5. So the justification for me no longer continuing the process at Hinsdale South is that my undergraduate GPA, which means my grade point average of the math classes that I took when I was in college, was not high enough. I graduated from college 15 years ago, in 2003. I'm obviously not the same person I was 15 years ago. My maturity, intelligence, ability to interact with people, all of those qualities have improved drastically since then. So then why is my GPA from 15 years ago the limiting factor in whether or not I'm still considered for a job today? I can't answer that question. All I can tell you is that that's the policy of the district, and I have to live with that conclusion. Is it fair? Life's not fair. What's the point? The point is, let's look at the effort on my part that it took to get the GPA that I had when I was in college. So I don't know how much I've discussed this particular concept, but let's rewind a little bit. Okay, I'm an only child. When I was in high school, I took my education very seriously. I studied, I got good grades, I didn't go out, I didn't really party at all. I was an athlete as well, so basically my focus was get good grades and play sports and kind of see what happens, do things the right way. That's just the way that I was raised. And fortunately, I had the support of my parents where, you know, not doing homework was not an option. Skipping practice, stuff like that. My parents supported me, but they actually held me accountable for the things that I chose to do. And with education, it was a big deal. Made sure my homework was done, helped me wherever necessary, this and that. Okay, very supportive of my education. When I got to college, slightly different story. See, I lived in the dorms, I was on my own. I didn't really have the same support system. So, of course, there were things other than my education that I took a lot more seriously, like partying, like video games, like playing football. See, when I was in high school, yes, I loved football and I loved playing it, but I took my academics a little bit more seriously than I did athletics. I liked playing video games when I was in high school, but I mean, to a degree, my parents made sure that homework came first. Like if I was gonna play video games, it was gonna be weekends only, or it was gonna be after homework, and it was gonna be you're in bed by a certain time. College, different story. I didn't have anybody to answer to, basically. I could choose to do whatever I chose to do, and that's exactly what I did. Partied when I wanted, played video games when I wanted, stayed up till 2 or 3 in the morning whenever I wanted, didn't go to class whenever I wanted, didn't study whenever I wanted, and those results were the GPA that I earned. Did I know at the time that 15 years later those choices would come back to haunt me? Of course not. I wasn't worried about that back then. I didn't know that 15 years down the road, if I had a quote dream job that I wanted to get, that those decisions I made in 2003 or in the previous years leading up to that would cost me that opportunity. I had no idea. But that's the reality. Because you see, not only am I not considered for a math position now, I will never be considered for a teaching position at Hinsdale South because of my GPA. Unless, of course, that policy changes, which I don't anticipate it changing. So, I don't know if you heard that. I can never teach at Hinsdale South. Ever. A place where I've been coaching for the last 5 years. A place where I've built relationships with other coaches, obviously, other teachers, student athletes, etc. I can never teach there because of choices that I made 15 years ago. Again, is that fair? I don't know. That's not for me to say. From a personal standpoint, does it feel unfair? Of course it does. But again, life isn't fair. Life is a result of your choices. And this is a result of the choices that I made 15 years ago to not prioritize my education and put other things first. Fun, friends, football, partying, video games. See what I'm getting at? Now, that was when I was in my 20s, late teens, early 20s. Some of you all are doing that now. You're not prioritizing your education now. So I'm a little, concerned, quite honestly, that pattern is simply going to repeat itself, and you're not going to have opportunities like the one that I had that I, didn't get. Those opportunities aren't even going to come to you because some of you still choose to not prioritize your education. Now again, I understand maybe the lack of support system that you have. Okay, I get it. And you're not maybe mature enough to make those decisions on your own. But see, the thing is, when I was in college, not prioritizing my education, I didn't have teachers, professors, educators promoting education as much as you all have, the support system that you have in your building. It was just kind of assumed like, all right, you're at college, you're supposed to get a degree, you're going to get a degree, and people generally left me alone. And we see how well that turned out. Now, I wasn't a terrible student, I wasn't a bad student, I was an average student when I was in college, average, based on effort. I put in the average amount of effort. I did what it took to be eligible to play football and get my degree, which it turns out isn't good enough to qualify for certain jobs that I might want to get in the future. So just food for thought. When people tell you, when I tell you, when other teachers tell you, the choices that you make now will have an impact on your future. It might not be tomorrow, it might not be next year, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. Maybe it'll be 15 years from now, when that opportunity comes about that you really, really, really want and have been waiting for, and you lose it because of choices that you made in your past. Think about it. We all hope that you have understood how the choices you make have an impact. Let's look at the choices that you made this school year, some of you, and how it has affected whether or not you walk across the stage, or how much of a struggle that is. So, again, my purpose as a teacher, share my experiences. Hopefully sharing this experience shines a little light on what exactly Mr. Hansen's talking about and how frustrated he gets when some of you don't live up to the potential that you have or put in the effort that is necessary. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.